Today is the day that we've been preparing for the past few months. HUD's new HMIS data standards are going live in the database, so when you log into Mutes Awards, you'll find forms have changed, there are new data elements that you're required to answer, and this video is here to quickly prepare you for some of those changes. We'll follow up this video with a series of webinars for each program type that will fully explain all of the changes that are going to happen in the database, and we'll discuss those date and times later in this presentation. But first, we want to take a moment to make sure you understand what exactly is happening so that you're fully prepared to meet those changes. First, we're going to give a quick history and the purpose behind these HMIS data standards. Why do we have them? What purpose do they serve? Also, what exactly is changing in HMIS or Mutes Awards database? We'll hopefully offer some quick tips throughout the presentation, and we'll point you in the direction of other resources and additional training that you'll be able to access. First off, in 2004, HUD noticed that grantees were collecting varying amounts of data and they were asking questions in different ways, and so everyone was kind of doing their own thing with the data collection. The data could not be adequately analyzed because there wasn't a standard platform on how the questions were asked or how the data was recorded. So in 2004, they instilled the HMIS data standards. That was a very basic round of data standards, but it was unprecedented because it had never been done before. So 2004 finally began to ask static questions with static answers that could be answered for those questions. In 2010, they updated those HMIS data standards to what we currently use right now. It was much more robust, and it kind of set the stage for what we're going to talk about today. As many of you remember, across the nation, a part of the ARA funding was an HPRP program, Homelessness Prevention and Rapid Rehousing. Mute alone had $7.9 million in that program. We were months and months into that program before these data standards changed. And therefore, we were supposed to retroactively go back into these client files and update the information to meet those changes. So we've had a choppy, difficult transition before. 2014 data standards, that transition should be much more smooth. So now we've had a chance to kind of hone this data collection process and analysis process, and 2014 is really the result of the years of collecting data and now learning some valuable lessons. Before we actually get started into what's changing, I do want to make sure you're aware of the resources that are available. First off, HUD has developed an HMIS data manual that's very valuable. We have the link in the email that contains this video, so you'll be able to go and access that. But in the future, they're actually coming out with program-specific manuals. So if you have an ESG program, there are some data fields that they're conditional on what program they're actually going to be recorded for. So ESG may ask, what is this status? And it will mean something different than in PATH or the COC-funded projects, or even a HOPWA or Runaway Homeless Youth Program project. VA-funded projects are going to ask more questions about veteran status, and so they'll need a different manual to describe some of those data fields. So there are other resources that are coming available, and I think this is going to be very valuable in the hands of not only the users at each program level, but also us as your HMIS lead agency, so that we can help guide different programs, even programs that we don't currently have in Mute's agency. So hopefully that'll help us give some expertise there. Also, our HMIS vendor, Foothold Technology, is releasing a series of video tutorials that will be available under online help inside of awards. So once you're inside of the database, you'll go to the help option, there's online help, and there will be a series of video tutorials that will explain the new changes that have come with the new HMIS data standards. Here's the question, what's actually changing? Well, there's a few answers to that. First, and we're going to try and speak briefly about this, the program-specific data collection. So now, if you are set up as an SSVF program, Supportive Services for Veteran Families program, your intake form will look totally different from someone that is set up as an emergency shelter program. So you want to make sure that your program is set up correctly in HMIS, and we're going to be ensuring that over the next few days. Also, there will be additional data fields, new data elements, or ones that we've currently had in the past are going to change and evolve. Also, many programs are now tracking some service delivery inside of HMIS. So for some agencies that have not done a contact log or supportive services checklist inside of the database, you're probably going to be required to do that now. There's also a new functionality that allows for children to age into adults inside of HMIS database and for data to be collected along the way. So we'll talk about that briefly. And then also, HUD is asking that we have annual updates for each of our clients in HMIS. Therefore, the database is going to ask you to update client files probably 1 month prior to a client's 1-year anniversary in the program. Just a few examples of this program-specific data collection that we're talking about. VA data elements are going to add new fields onto the intake form. So the veteran's information that's currently, are you a veteran, yes or no, is now going to be much more robust. It's going to expand. So it's going to ask about what conflict or theater of conflict they may have been involved in. And also pertaining to the SSVF program, there's going to be a percentage of AMI question that's going to be asked as well, because that documents whether or not they qualify for the assistance. There's also going to be an address prior to program entry, which is interesting and should be simple to implement, but it may be difficult to actually get that from some of our clients. Also, HOPWA and PATH programs, they have program-specific data collection as well. They will be the only programs in HMIS that allow for a housing status field that should be collected. Every other program, that field is going to disappear. They also ask for medical assistance because both of these programs deal with either persons living with HIV or AIDS or persons dealing with mental health issues. It now asks the question of whether or not they're actually getting any kind of medical assistance for the illnesses that they're dealing with. The data element changes and additions, there are new things coming. First off, there's this age-old question of, if you put don't know for social security number, did the client not know? Did the person recording the data not know? And so now a lot of that ambiguity is being removed by allowing for this client doesn't know and client refused. And there's the new option for data not collected. So if the question wasn't on the form that you gave the client to fill out, now you can put data not collected. There's also a new name data quality question. So where we've had before with social security number or birth date, because those are numerical values that are required, now the question will be asked whether or not their name is actually their name or whether it's partial or whether it's an alias. So that should help us out as well. Disabling condition is now automatically calculated. Before you would say yes or no, they have a disabling condition, and then you would answer a list of special needs questions that would kind of give direction to or hone in on what their actual disability was. Now there will only be special needs questions, and the disabling condition question will automatically be calculated from those special need questions. So if you say the person has a substance abuse issue and that they are not receiving treatment and that it impedes their ability to live independently, now the system will automatically calculate that this person has a disabling condition. That being said, we know this touches on chronic homelessness. The episodes of homelessness will change. There are new questions. They're intuitive. You're not going to have, I don't think, too much of a problem understanding those. If you do, you can go to the data manual or give Mute a call and we'll help guide you through that. There's also chronically homeless is now automatically calculated onto the form, pulling from the disabling condition questions and the episodes of homelessness question. So that's automatically calculated. It'll be read only, and you cannot edit that without editing the questions that the logic draws from. Also, housing status and zip code of last permanent address will be removed except for the PATH programs and HOPWA programs. So those are some of the changes that are coming. Other changes are that children turning 18 while in the program will age out in the program, and users will be prompted to return to that user's face sheet, to that client's face sheet, and update the questions. Right now, if you're under 18, we don't ask the question of whether or not you're a veteran or where you served. And we don't ask even about disabling condition. It's not required for a child any longer. But once that person turns 18, users will be prompted to go to their face sheet and update those questions now as an adult for that client. There are also new questions regarding the client's health care. And so we're looking at this comprehensive system of care, trying to make sure that we're addressing all of the needs of a client through different community partners. Healthcare is a valid point there, and we need to actually find or track that data as they come in and out of our programs. Documentation questions now appear in several fields, so it's not just going to ask, are they homeless? It's going to ask whether or not you documented their homeless status. Annual updates will now be required for COC-funded projects, so now whenever the person's been in your program for 11 months, Awards is working to implement a new feature that will prompt you inside the messages module to tell you to go and update those services. ESG programs and HPRP programs in the past and COC-funded programs currently use supportive services checklists, also known as the contact log in HMIS, to track services that are delivered to clients. Now, different programs and federal partners are requiring that their programs do it as well. So, PATH programs, Runaway and Homeless Youth programs, HOPA programs, and SSVF are all asking that their programs go into HMIS or Mutes Awards database and track those services so they can be reported out monthly, quarterly, and annually. As I said before, this video is only meant to prepare you for the changes that you're going to see today. Mute will be hosting a series of webinars next week, so on October 9th, which is a Thursday. Several times throughout that day, we're going to have program-specific webinars. We did divide them by program type because there are each program is going to have different data elements now that they're going to be asked to answer. So instead of wasting everyone's time, we decided to be very intentional and specific about who all we were speaking with. So there are VA-funded projects, SSVF would all meet at 9 o'clock that morning. ESG programs, whether they're rapid rehousing, prevention, or an emergency shelter, will all meet at 10:30 online. And then also COC-funded projects will finish out the day at 1 o'clock that afternoon. Please feel free to contact us before these webinars to ask us questions or maybe to point out things that you see as a problem so that we can begin to address them and maybe even address them inside of those webinars. We do want to make sure that we accommodate everyone, so make sure you register using the links contained in this email. And also, we did host them online so that people could attend from the comfort of their home or office. Hopefully you're actually at your office at 9 a.m. in the morning. Before those webinars, if you have any questions, even today as you work your way through the system and you see maybe that there might be problems, please feel free to give us a call or send us an email. Contact information is listed in the email that contained this video. Also, you can use the help desk inside of awards. So from the awards opening menu, just go click on help and then click help desk. It'll send us a message inside of the database. Inside of the help desk module, you're able to send us client specific information. We don't want that through normal email because it doesn't maintain confidentiality. It's not HIPAA compliant. So please just list client specific details in those help desk messages inside of the database where it's secure, or just give us a call and we can talk about it on the phone. We're excited about these changes. We think they're going to make our systems better, and we appreciate all of the work that you all do. One last note. If you go into a form to update some of that information after today's date, you're going to be asked to complete those new universal data elements. So if you go in to update something on an intake form, you are going to be required to answer the new universal data elements before you can process the form. Just like now, if you entered in to an intake form and didn't have a Social Security number, it wouldn't let you process the page until you completed it. That will be the new practice with all of these new universal data elements. So just be prepared to ask the client additional questions as needed, or hopefully we can just avoid don't knows or refused or client doesn't know or client refused as much as possible. Once again, we thank you all for everything that you do. If you need anything from us, feel free to call or email, and we're looking forward to seeing how the change rolls out.